Welcome to the Kwibuka podcast, written by Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, minister at Minubumwe, and recorded by Josue Ishema. After years of research, he has collected and compiled information on different actions that led to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. In today's episode, we will focus on the contribution of the local authorities on the preparation and execution of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. The genocide committed against the Tutsi between April and July 1994 was made possible because all institutions, both public and private, participated in it. This genocide could not have occurred if local authorities very close to the population had not played a key role in its organization in sensitizing the population to participate massively. To begin, let us recall some facts as a reminder of the history of the components of this genocide. The massacres of Kwibuka in October 1990 were initiated by the sub-prefect of Ngororero, Bernard Niyitegeka, and the mayor of Commune Kwibuka, Jean Damascene Bizimana. Sub-prefect Niyitegeka convened a meeting bringing together mayors and councillors from the communes of Kwibuka, Satinski, and Ramba, which formed sub-prefecture of Ngororero, with the participation of MRND political cadres from this region, including Leon Mugesera, councillor in charge of political and administrative affairs within the MRND, and at the same time, vice president of MRND in the prefecture of Gisenyi. During the meeting, sub-prefect Bernard Niyitegeka displayed two corpses claiming they were Hutu killed by Tutsi. He asked them to mobilize the population to ensure security and launch a hunt for the enemy. After this meeting, the mayors and councillors implemented the instructions dictated to them by the sub-prefect, and many Tutsis perished. In several localities of the former commune Kwibuka, the attacks were led by councillors and cell leaders. In the cell of Makoma, which is in Gatumba sector, the massacres were led by Josephine Mugeni. She gathered Hutu and asked them to get rid of Tutsi because, she said, a plan by Tutsi to eliminate Hutus had been discovered. In the Nhobge sector, the massacres were led by his councillor, Jean-Baptiste Mwari. Other influential people have also been accused of participating. In addition to Mayor Jean-Baptiste Bizimana, Leon Mugesera from this region is also mentioned. Pierre Tegera, who led the National Potato Involvement Program, and the president of the MRND in the commune of Kwibuka, Innocent Teganya. To incite Hutu peasants to participate in the massacres, authorities spread unfounded rumors, including claiming that Colonel Serubuga had been killed by Tutsi and that Colonel Charles Uwihoreye, originally from Ngororero and who led the Ejena Gendarmerie School in Ruhengeri, had also been killed by Tutsi. These rumors aimed to demonize the Tutsi in order to convince the Hutu to defend themselves by killing the Tutsi. The late François Nsengiyumva, who perished in the genocide in 1994, conducted research on these massacres and provided many names of Tutsi victims, describing the circumstances of their murder. He gave the example of a woman named Mathilde Mukabideli, who was a trader in the center of Rwanda who often refused offers from those who wanted to sexually abuse her. In October 1990, they gruesomely killed her by piercing her genitals with a sword and mocking her in cruel and indecent ways. Nsengiyumva gives another example of a child, Welax Mukiza from the Kirengo sector. When his parents saw the attack, they fled running. The child hid in the hedge, but innocently, he only hid his head, leaving his legs visible outside. The torturers discovered him and struck him with a machete on the leg and neck. They left him at the scene thinking he was dead. His mother, realizing she had left her child, returned to look for him and found him dying. She was also seriously injured. She tried to lift him and went to throw herself into the Nyabarongo River. It should also be noted that many Tutsi were thrown alive into this river. Another infant from the Taxis Munyankumburwa family was burned in the house with their parents, but the part of the house where it was located did not completely catch fire. The killers left the baby crying for 3 days. He died of hunger and thirst. His only crime was being Tutsi. None of his assassins were brought to justice. On July 6, 1991, the Minister of the Interior Community Development, Faustin Munyazesa, sent a letter to President Habyarimana regarding the massacres committed against the Bagogwe in the prefectures of Gisenyi and Ruhengeri. He reported that 286 Bagogwe had been massacred in the Ruhengeri prefecture compared to 86 in the Gisenyi prefecture. He provided the names of the deceased, their residence cells, sectors, and communes. These figures show that the killed individuals are distributed as follows. Gisenyi prefecture, commune of Gichiye, 22 were killed and 13 injured in the Kibisabo school. Commune of Gaseke, 15 were killed. Commune of Karago, 16 were killed and 1 injured in the Rambura school. Commune of Mutura, 24 were killed, and in commune of Kanama, 9 were killed. In the Ruhengeri prefecture, commune of Butaro, 24 were killed, 14 widowed, and 44 orphaned. Commune of Kigombe, 17 were killed, 14 were widowed, and 46 orphaned. Commune of Humba, 15 were killed, 10 widowed, and 40 orphaned. Commune of Kidaho, 20 were killed, 27 were widowed, and 97 orphaned. Commune of Kinigi, 20 were killed, 18 widowed, and 59 orphaned. Another document dated October 15, 1991, written by the Director General in charge of policy at Mininter, Eterne Kubwimana, titled Note to the Attention of the Minister of the Interior and Community Development, provides a higher toll of the massacres. Kubwimana indicated that between October 1990 and June 1991, the figures for Tutsi killed and those persecuted in the prefectures of Byumba, Ruhengeri, Gisenyi, and Kibungo are as follows. 1,508 people were killed. 302 people were disabled due to violence. 633 people were left widows, and 2,274 children were left orphans. After receiving this document, the Minister of the Interior, Faustin Munyazesa, addressed a letter to the President of the Republic on November 15, 1991, reporting these massacres while expressing satisfaction. Another letter, dated July 17, 1991, provides information on the number of people killed, injured, disabled, their social categories, and property destroyed between October 1, 1990 and June 29, 1991 for each commune in the prefectures of Byumba, Gisenyi, Ruhengeri, and Kibungo. In the Byumba prefecture, 894 people were killed, including 636 men and 258 women. 188 people were disabled due to violence, including 57 men, 21 women, and 21 children. 372 people were widowed, including 91 men and 281 women. 219 children became orphans of both parents, while 1,253 children were orphans of a single parent. 518 children became orphans under the age of 5, while 954 children became orphans over the age of 5. 359 of them were students. In the Ruhengeri prefecture, 117 people were killed, including 103 men and 14 women. 101 people were disabled due to violence, including 62 men, 22 women, and 17 children. 86 people were widowed, including 10 men and 76 women. 9 children became orphans from both parents, while 292 children became orphans from a single parent. 70 of them were students. In the Gisenyi prefecture, 470 people were killed. 9 were disabled due to violence, including 8 men and 1 woman. 153 were widowed, including 35 men and 118 women. 47 children became orphans from both parents, while 354 children became orphans from a single parent. In the Kibungo prefecture, 27 people were killed, including 24 men and 3 women. 4 were disabled due to violence. 22 people were widowed, including 3 men and 19 women. 2 children became orphans from both parents, while 98 children became orphans from a single parent. 39 of those children were orphaned under the age of 5, while 61 of them were orphaned over the age of 5. 25 of them were students. This document also mentions that 169 people, mostly Bagogwe, went missing, including 20 from the Nhuli commune, 33 from Mukingo, and 116 from Kinigi. It adds that most of these individuals may have died. These figures, published by the Rwandan government itself, highlight that many civilians were killed between 1990 and 1994 with no connection to the war, but rather solely based on their Tutsi ethnic identity. The massacres of civilians in 1991 were committed in retaliation after the defeat of the Rwandan army in Ruhengeri, which resulted in the liberation of prisoners by the RPF on January 23, 1991. At that time, the commander of operations in this prefecture, Colonel Charles Uwihoreye, was summoned to Kigali and imprisoned. He was replaced by Lieutenant Colonel Jean-Marie Vianney Nzapfakumunsi, a native of Kibuye. He led the massacres of Tutsi in the communes of Ruhengeri. He had as his collaborator Captain Boniface Hasengineza, a native of Ruhengeri, who sent his soldiers to track down the Bagogwe before they were executed in the Mukamira military camp. The night of 4th to 5th, 1992 was marked by systematic massacres of Tutsi in Bugesera. They were carried out by the Interahamwe, the Presidential Guard, and soldiers from the Gako camp. They were preceded by the broadcast of an incitement statement on March 3rd on Radio Rwanda by journalist Jean-Baptiste Bamwanga under the orders of Ferdinand Nahimana, then director of the Rwandan Information Office. Bamwanga commented on this forced document, explaining that it had been published by the RPF leadership, mentioning the names of senior authorities of the Habyarimana regime that the RPF planned to eliminate. In collaboration with its accomplices inside, Bamwanga stated that this document had been found in Nyamata at a Tutsi merchant named François Gahima, who was the local president of the Liberal Party, PL. This false information was, in reality, a direct incitement to killings. The figures provided by the government on these killings indicated the following results. In the Kanzenze commune, 62 people were massacred, 309 residential houses were burned, and 573 kitchens were burned. Among the missing livestock were 165 cows, 268 goats, and 2 pigs. In the Nyenda commune, 36 people were massacred, 74 residential houses were burned, 119 kitchens were burned, while among the missing livestock were 112 cows, 111 goats, and 16 pigs. In the Gashora commune, 84 people were massacred, 216 residential houses were burned, 288 kitchens were burned, while among the missing livestock were 188 cows, 225 goats, and 28 pigs. The report indicated a total of 16,239 Tutsis who had left their homes and sought refuge in various administrative and religious buildings in Nyamata, Maranyundo, Ruhuha, Musenyi, Karama, Gitagata, Mayange, Rango, Ntarama, Murago, Kigusa, and Kayenzi. 5 independent human rights defense associations, ADL, Liquidor, ARDHO, Kanyarwanda, and AVP, conducted 2 investigations into these massacres and discovered numerous damages. Their first report was published on March 10, 1992, reporting the death of over 300 Tutsi. Some were thrown into rivers. Others burned alive in their homes. The report then noted that there were 15,000 displaced Tutsi who lived in deplorable conditions, especially Tutsi refugees at the parish and schools in Nyamata, Maranyundo, Ruhuha, and Ririma. The report denounced the responsibility of authorities involved in these massacres, including Kanzenze's mayor, Fidel Kwibuka, Kanazi's sub-prefect, Faustin Sekagina, Kanazi's first deputy prosecutor, Deogratias Nibuwanzi, and the intelligence service chief in Kanazi's sub-prefecture, Dominique Muhawenimana. On March 30, 1992, the aforementioned human rights defense associations conducted another investigation in Bugesera to assess security 1 year after the 1992 massacres. In their report published on April 5, 1993, they reported that many displaced Tutsi had still not reclaimed their property and remained threatened by the SEDER members. The report also specified that young girls had been raped by Gako's military and people continued to be persecuted under the pretext of being suspected of wanting to join the ranks of the RPF. Some victims could be identified, including Nyabyenda and Anastase, who worked for a senior official at Minecofin called Mbarute. a person named Butera was killed by the military in Nyarurama, Ngenda, on March 6, 1993. Many people were beaten and became disabled, like the elderly Mutabazi, beaten on February 21, 1993, by the gendarmes and police at Kanzenze Commune Office. Lieutenant Colonel Claudien Singirankabo, commander of the Gako camp, justified these crimes as a consequence of the war imposed on them by the RPF, claiming that even his mother had been killed by the RPF in Ruhengeri. Antonia Locatelli, an Italian national, was the director of the Integrated Rural and Craft Education Center, SERAI, in Nyamata. Her assassination occurred on the night of March 9th and 10th, 1992, due to a bullet deliberately fired by the gendarme Epimac Urimubenshi. This Italian educator in Nyamata had sheltered Tutsi refugees fleeing the killers and had alerted several public and private institutions, including the Archdiocese of Kigali, to which the Nyamata SERAI belonged. Antonia Locatelli had also provided information on the massacres against the Tutsi to Radio France Internationale RFI. She was killed immediately after the broadcast of her interview on RFI's evening news. Her assailant was never held accountable, indicating that it was an orchestrated act supported by the Rwandan regime. The relentless actions of the Rwandan regime to commit atrocities in Bugesera can be explained by the fact that this region was populated by numerous Tutsi, and the government constantly propagated that Tutsi youth were leaving Bugesera to join the ranks of the RPF via Burundi. Many press articles, including those from the government newspaper Imvaho, accused the Tutsi of Bugesera of being suppliers of reinforcement for the RPF. In the early 1993, 137 Tutsi were massacred in the prefectures of Gisenyi and Ruhengeri within a month. These figures, provided by the intelligence service, concerned ordinary citizens who had no connection to the war but were killed solely due to their ethnic background. A document drafted on January 27, 1993 by a senior official representing the intelligence service in Gisenyi, Damiani Ibizi, outlines what was discussed in a security meeting of the Gisenyi prefecture. This meeting brought together mayors, sub-prefects, and all officials in charge of security instances in the prefecture and the army. Each mayor provided the security situation in their commune. Throughout the prefecture, 137 people had been killed, distributed as follows: 32 in Gaseke, 9 in Gichiye, 7 in Kanama, 1 in Karago, 4 in Kayove, 4 in Nyamyumba, 21 in Ramba, 3 in Rubavu, and 56 in Satinsi. This same document also mentioned a case of displaced persons who had abandoned their property. After these massacres, the international community pressured the Rwandan government. Human rights defense associations in Rwanda and opposition political parties were then able to establish a commission to shed light on the perpetrators of these pogroms. This commission consisted of the following 6 individuals: Dr. Augustin Iyamuremye, Director General of the Internal Intelligence Service at the Prime Minister's Office, also Commission President; Laurent Kanyarubira, Advisor to the Ministry of Interior; Major Hategekimana of the Rwandan Army, although he never participated in the Commission's work; Laurent Rebero, Advisor on Administrative and Legal Matters at the Ministry of Justice; Norbert Muhaturukundo, Director at the Ministry of Information; and finally, Athanase Munyemana, Director at the Minister's Prime Office. This commission spoke with individuals from all categories, including members of religious denominations. It concluded that the massacres were provoked by the manifestations of the MRND and the CEDER. The key point highlighted by this commission is the responsibility of high military and civilian authorities. In its report, the commission indicated that the massacres had been committed in several communes of the Gisenyi prefecture, including Mutura, Nyamyumba, Kibirira, and Kayove. In the communes of Ramba and Gichiye, the massacres were directed by communal authorities. The prefect of Gisenyi, Joseph Habiyambere, was singled out as the ringleader, along with sub-prefects Ile-de-France Rukawukira and Bikumbi. The commander of the place in Gisenyi, Colonel Juvenal Bahufite, was also named. The commission's conclusions recommended that the following authorities be sanctioned: Prefect Joseph Habiyambere, Mayor Charles Bangamwabo of Gichiye Commune, Mayor Théogène Nzabanita of Ramba Commune, and Leodomir Bugurijabo of Nyamutera Commune. However, the commission did not mention other commune leaders who had responsibilities in the massacres of Tutsi. Although government-established commissions revealed certain crimes, they did not shed light on the entire truth and did not demand sanctions against all the perpetrators of these ethnic pogroms. For example, Colonel Juvenal Bahufite remained the commander in Gisenyi without facing any consequences, as did Major André Bizimana, despite the two authorities coordinating the execution of the massacres. In March 1993, the International Federation for Human Rights, FIDH, conducted an investigation in Rwanda and exposed the extent of the massacres committed against the Bagogwe. This inquiry was carried out by 10 experts from various European, American, and African countries. Those were Jean Carbonard from France, who was the group president, Philippe Dahinden from Switzerland, René Denis-Segui from Ivory Coast, Alison Deforge from the United States, Eric Gillet from Belgium, William Chabas from Canada, Halidou Ouedraogo from Burkina Faso, André Paradis from Canada, Rein Odink from Netherlands, and Paul de Denval from Belgium. Published in March 1994, the report pointed out that in the former commune of Kinigi, innocent people were massacred and thrown into mass graves. These massacres were led by Mayor Tadega Sana. In the commune of Muchingo, the massacres were supervised by Mayor Juvenal Kajeligeli and the Minister of Public Works and Energy, Joseph Nzirorera. Kajeligeli was sentenced by the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda to 45 years in prison. Nzirorera died before the end of the trial, in which he was co-accused with Edouard Karemera and Mathieu Ngirumpatse. In the commune of Nhuli, led by Mayor Mathias Miranya, many innocent Tutsi were killed. Some were thrown into the Nyaruhunga cave, while others died at the Ruhengeri Court of Appeal. In the communes of Gaseke and Gichiye, the Bagogwe were also massacred by the population under the direction of the authorities of these communes. The report mentions that the high-ranking officials responsible for these massacres are Jean-Marie Vianney Mugemana, former Minister of Interior and Communal Development, Charles Nzabagerageza, Prefect of Ruhengeri, and Jeremy Sukiranya, Director of Ruhengeri Prison. These authorities were accused of visiting these communes, urging the population to participate in exceptional community work, clear everywhere, and kill RPF accomplices hiding in the bushes, meaning the Tutsi. They recommended engaging in this task, citing a Rwandan proverb that says, "One who eliminates weeds must uproot them completely." Following these instructions from the authorities, Tutsis were murdered in various communes of the Gisenyi prefecture, particularly Gichiye, Gaseke, Ramba, Karago, Mutura, Kanama, and Rwerere. In the Gaseke commune, the massacres were particularly intense on February 2, 1991. The killers used traditional weapons such as spears, machetes, hoes, sharp sticks, or stones. Among the brutally murdered individuals, the report gives the example of a woman named Mukamana. She was married to a teacher detained at Gisenyi prison since October 1990, falsely accused of being an Inhotanyi. This woman was dismembered in front of her two children aged 2 and 3. After killing their mother, the children were thrown into the latrines. This gruesome act was carried out by the locals, led by the sector councillor of Mngendo. The report notes that in the Gaseke commune, more than 60 people were massacred in 10 days. The report also mentions that the killers were protected by high authorities to avoid legal consequences. It gives the example of Joseph Buhirike, the younger brother of Colonel Elisa Gatwa, who was President Habyarimana's private secretary. Buhirike killed numerous Tutsi in the Gihira sector of Gichiye commune without facing consequences. In the Karago commune, which is the home commune of the President Habyarimana, 68 Tutsi perished. Once again, the killers were not held accountable. In the Mutura commune, the massacres were committed by Bigugwe soldiers. Mayor Faustin Dabarinze and the police officer Rwamakuwa tried to protect the victims, but they were ultimately not able to because they were dismissed from their positions. Another example of the active involvement of grassroots authorities in the massacres of Tutsi between 1990 and 1994 is Jean-Baptiste Gatete, the mayor of Murambi Commune. Gatete led the Murambi Commune for 12 years, from 1981 until 1993. He committed unimaginable atrocities against Tutsi that worsened from 1990 at the beginning of the Liberation War. At that time, Gatete arrested and detained numerous Tutsi, most of whom were transported to Byumba to be killed at the military camp. In 1991, Gatete intensified his provocations against Tutsi and some Hutu who were not members of the MRND. One key example is as follows. On the night of November 7, 1991, Marie Kamire was crushed in the chest, and her daughter, Gorette Morekatete, was beaten with a hammer on the legs and arms. The expedition that committed these horrors was led by the authorities of the basic state instances under the leadership of Councillor Jean Bizimungu in collaboration with cell leader Denis Nzabamwita. When they arrived at their home, the killers broke down the door, entered the house, and beat the Tutsis living there. Local authorities stayed in the yard smoking their cigarettes, saying, "Let them kill the Inhotanyi, there is Rwigema's grandmother." The expedition grievously wounded 7-year-old Aloise Kabirigita with machete blows. On November 12, 1991, journalists joined him at the Kiziguro hospital, where he was receiving treatment. They interviewed him and wanted to understand the motives behind the attack. He replied, "Young men, leave me alone. It's because I am Tutsi, yet my attackers are no more Rwandan than I am." The elderly woman, Concessa Ngenzi, aged 62, had also fallen victim to machete blows during the expedition led by Councillor Jean Bizimungu, Gerard Kayonza, who was a primary school teacher, Odette Kabagwira, and cell leader Uwamaria. They committed this barbarity while chanting the slogan, "Our movement is high, Habyarimana continued to lead us." A large number of Tutsi were killed, especially in the Rwankuba sector, where 82-year-old Muka Choya was struck down with a spear. The journalist from Kinyamateka, who visited the commune on November 12, 1991, published a moving article written by Ladislas Nyongira. Here is an excerpt. 2 weeks ago, disturbances erupted within the population of Murambi commune. Mayor Gatete attributes them to the MDR party, which according to him, is dominated by Tutsi. The population believes Gatete is the instigator, collaborating with certain sector and cell authorities. The wounded are still in the hospital. Tension still lingers in the commune, although the authorities want to conceal it by claiming that peace has been restored. When questioned about the causes of these troubles, Mayor Gatete seems to have memorized what the radio broadcasts. He told us that Murambi commune in the Buganza region is densely populated by Tutsi, although they are not more numerous than the Hutu. Added to this, the RPF war prepared in Murambi commune as in other communes, including Garama, Muvumba, and more. So, according to Gatete, the accomplices are numerous. Some were sent to Byumba and were killed, but there are those who were released and remain furious. The mayor believes that the Hutu-Tutsi problem has been revived by the war. The Rwankuba massacres in Murambi commune received widespread media coverage, mainly initiated by international human rights organizations, following information transmitted to them by Rwandan associations, including Kanyarwanda and the Association of Volunteers for Peace. The Rwandan government found itself embarrassed as it had to explain to embassies in Kigali to address this. It established a so-called Commission of Inquiry into the Rwankuba massacres. The commission comprised 4 senior officials from the Ministry of the Interior. Those were Eterne Kubwimana, Director of Political Affairs and Commission President, André Banyurwabake, Chief of the Inspection and Support Division, Venerand Musabyimana, Chief of the Information and Documentation Division, and finally Apollinaire Mukamakuza, Social Worker. The Commission missions was to identify the causes of the troubles that occurred in the Rwankuba sector, Murambi commune, Byumba prefecture, on the night of November 7th to 8th, 1991. The commission went to Murambi, interviewed various authorities, and visited the Kiziguro parish, where over 200 refugees had settled in the Rwankuba sector where the massacres occurred. The commission submitted its report on November 13th, 1991, starting with the Ngaramasa prefect, who declared that the massacres were provoked by the Tutsi. The commission reports his words. The authorities of Ngaramasa prefecture took the opportunity to make us understand that the troubles that occurred in Murambi commune are one of the goals of the Inyenzi Inkotanyi in the war they triggered. They divided the population within our country. They killed people and destroyed infrastructure to win the war. Mayor Gatete was also questioned by the commission, who stated that the problem of disagreement between the majority ethnic groups has long existed in the Murambi commune, especially since 1988. Since that year, the Tutsis have begun to separate themselves to create factions, boasting that they have already won the victory, that Kigali will return, that Rwigema will liberate them. Many Tutsi young men obtained passports, claiming they were visiting relatives while going for military training in Barara, Uganda. When the October 1990 war broke out, all those suspected of being accomplices were arrested by the population and handed over to the authorities. They were detained and 16 even died in prison. Detainees released after the Nsele agreements in Zaire on March 29, 1991, returned with the aim of eliminating Gatete, the mayor of Murambi commune. He was alerted by a Hutu who was detained with them and had also been released. After the failure to shoot or poison him, they began to slander him in the press and with leaflets. This is the work of some people living in the commune and others in Kigali, but originating from Murambi. The commission, after validating Gatete's statement, confirmed his additional explanations, producing lies that exonerate Mayor Gatete and his collaborators from their clear responsibility. Below are excerpts. The trigger for the troubles in the Rwankuba sector was the MDR meeting held in the commune on October 27, 1991, led by Evergiste Gwambonera with Viateur Mutanguha, head of the pharmacy division at the Ministry of Health, and Bizimungu, youth and cooperative supervisor in Murambi commune. Many Tutsi participated in the meeting, chanting the slogan, "We win, we win, we will lead you for eternity." After this meeting, Tutsi no longer spent the night at home. They formed factions and spent the night at Ndahindurwa's place. During the night of Tuesday, November 5, 1991, they attacked the Rwankuba sector councillor who refused to come out. The next night, they attacked the homes of councillors Munyangondo, Gatabo, Kalisa, and Rubaiza. Except the councillor, the others are Tutsi. Throughout the sector, the whole night was tumultuous. Early the next day, people fled to seek refuge in the Giti, Muhazi, and Gikoro communes, as well as at Kiziguro parish. Some even fled to Kigali before the troubles. Those were Rutaremara, Byusa Gerard, Uhigiro, and Gashoki, Viateur Mutanguha's brother-in-law. Gatete attributes all causes of the massacres to the Tutsi, claiming they launched expeditions against the Hutu. They wanted to absolve his Interahamwe from the crimes they committed and make it understood that the Hutus were acting in a position of legitimate defense. After the interview with Gatete, the commission interviewed Father Mbyariyehe from Kiziguro parish. The priest's statement revealed his biased ideas. In his statement, I quote, "The troubles did not surprise the Tutsi because before taking refuge at the parish, they sent envoys to warn the priest of their arrival. Even though they claimed to have been looted, few goods were stolen. The others have been hidden well before their flight. We also asked Father Mbyariyehe, who often talks to the refugees, about their wishes. He replied that they wanted the prefect to bring them home after dismissing Councillor Bizimungu and repairing their houses. He also told us that the Tutsi no longer had confidence in the communal authorities and that they were too arrogant." The report continues by exposing the wishes expressed by refugees who were crowded at Kiziguro parish. They told us that the expedition, organized to ransack their homes and beat them, had been launched by the councillor, but they could not provide us with irrefutable evidence. They informed us that the reason they had sought refuge at Kiziguro parish instead of public institutions was that those who had gone to alert the authorities had been arrested by the commune. They wished for the prefect and sub-prefect to reintegrate them into their properties. These authorities must first revoke the Rwankuba sector councillor. They wish for the perpetrators of violent acts to be arrested and held temporarily pending trial. They also wish for their homes to be repaired before occupying them and for assistance. Finally, they wish for the authorities to strengthen security upon their return to avoid further persecution. The commission members continue by recounting what was stated by Councillor Jean Bizimungu from the Rwankuba sector. He confessed that the climate of tension between Hutu and Tutsi living in this sector had prevailed long before the massacres. Tutsi targeted him because during the October 1990 war, he uncovered accomplices of the Inyenzi Inkotanyi, who are mostly Tutsi. He also told us that he was the first to be attacked by the Tutsi. They reportedly attacked him on the night of November 6, 1991, and resumed the next night. Among his assailants were Byusa, Rutaremara, Gasana, Kagarama, Kabera, Nyemanzi, Kirenga, Subika, Gisagara, Rutayisire, Mugabo, and more. Finally, he told us that the Hutu attacked the Tutsi in a state of legitimate defense because the latter had attacked their councillor. He added that the Tutsis spent their nights plotting, which provoked the anger of the Hutus, who reacted not to be surprised. These statements by the councillor Bizimungu are full of arrogance, cynicism, hatred, and the ideology of genocide. They show that he did not consider Tutsi as fellow citizens, let alone as residents with the same rights as Hutu. He falsely attributed the origin of hatred against the Hutu to them, claiming that the pogroms against the Tutsi were committed by Hutu in a state of legitimate defense. This kind of lie, attributing to Tutsi the responsibility for being authors of their own injustice, was a recurring theme during the 1990s to justify the violence and death inflicted on them by the government. The authorities who spoke to the commission included Ngaramasa Prefect Gabriel Ouanyirijuru, Murambi Mayor Jean-Baptiste Gatete, Rwankuba Sector Councillor Jean Bizimungu, Father Pierre Nolask Mbyariehe from Kiziguro Parish, and Tutsis who had taken refuge at the Kiziguro Parish. In this government report, there's much subjectivity that veils the truth about the violence against the Tutsi, qualifying them as conflicts despite them being persecutions. The report also validates the false statements and hatred towards Tutsi manifested by the authorities, including the Ngaramasa Prefect and Mayor Gatete, who was the direct instigator of these massacres, as well as the Rwankuba Sector Councillor who worked closely with Gatete. All explanations provided by the authorities attribute the crime to the Tutsi, and the commission members were convinced of this. Another alarming fact in the commission's conclusions is that its members write that they do not support the wish of Tutsi refugees driven from their properties to revoke Councillor Bizimungu, who is clearly responsible. The commission rejects this wish, reporting that the population has no problem with this councillor. The commission states, "The wish to revoke Councillor Bizimungu is unfounded because only a few Tutsi target him, while the majority of the population respects and find him correct, except for those who want to avenge their compatriots arrested due to their complicity with the Inyenzi Inkotanyi. His revocation could be unjust and could provoke harmful consequences, similar to those of the Kibira commune last year when Hutu wanted to avenge their brother unjustly dismissed from his duties." The government's retention of individuals in positions of power despite their criminal actions can be interpreted as a tacit endorsement of their behavior, effectively granting them impunity and allowing them to persist in their wrongdoing. The Commission's report was forwarded to the Minister of the Interior and then to the President of the Republic. It was also sent abroad to the Rwandan embassies to exploit it diplomatically and downplay the events in Murambi. A letter from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs dated December 9, 1991, addressed to Rwandan embassies abroad, written by Simeon Isonere, who was the Secretary General of this ministry, clearly demonstrates the intention to deny the massacres. In this letter, Isonere claims that the Ministry of the Interior's report on the so-called massacres of Murambi, which is how he described them, was meticulously conducted and constitutes the government's response. The expression so-called massacres indicates that the commission was not tasked with revealing the truth, but rather establishing a smokescreen intended for the international community to demonstrate that an investigation had been conducted and had found that peace prevailed in Murambi, which was not at all the case. Simeon Isonere currently lives in France. He is one of the witnesses in Judge Bruguiere's case, which spread falsehoods about the top authorities of Rwanda, including the President of the Republic, Paul Kagame. Isonere is also among the active members of F2U Inkingi. Check out the rest of our podcast and share them with others